Back to another video. Purple Political Talk here. Today is Friday, May 31st, 2024, and we have a very interesting video for you today. We're going to be taking a look at some of the initial effects of Donald Trump's verdict on the presidential election, and let me tell you, it is positive for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is stronger today in the presidential election than he was perhaps yesterday. And we have a couple of signs that could be telling us that potentially the verdict is not an end-all be-all for the campaign. Donald Trump might be able to survive. But before we do begin this video, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and to turn on the post notifications so you're up to date with all of our latest 2024 election content. We're bringing some exceptional content through many different perspectives in this channel, so I want to make sure you're up to date with our latest content. So without a further ado, let's get started with the video. So one of the biggest things that happened last night after Donald Trump had, been convicted is, number one, messaging almost immediately. Your Republican social media accounts, like from the party, the Trump War Room, and pretty much every single Trump surrogate out there, they started with this messaging about, Donald Trump is a political prisoner. And let me tell you, I think politically, that is some of the smartest messaging I've seen. And they were really quick, and all of that messaging and the strength of the messaging, in addition to how strongly many people felt about the verdict, considering, whether or not they were Republican or independents or even Democrats, that led to an increase a bit of support for Donald Trump. Now, how can we see this? Well, just money. In the first, less than 24 hours since the verdict has been, decided, Donald Trump has raised, according to this Axios report, and this comes from the campaign, over $35 million. That is massive amounts of money raised in very little time. All of these donations, mind you, are just the grassroots fundraisers. There's other donations that, can be accounted for separately that are larger ticket donations. So little by little, I think that gives us a couple of signs. Number one, the Donald Trump base and the Republican Party as a whole is fired up. They're, giving their money, they're giving their support, and in November, they're going to go and give them their vote. And, here's where I think Donald Trump starts getting more of a benefit. His base is even more likely to go out and vote for him than Biden's base. I think that, generally speaking, you're looking at a president that is super unpopular. Joe Biden has an 18.4, approval rating, disapproval rating. And, if we're to compare that to Donald Trump's approval rating, which is right here, you could see that, Donald Trump has a, higher favorability rating than Joe Biden does right now. Only a plus 12. When you compare that, it's a plus almost a plus 6 difference. Donald Trump is 6 points more favorable than Joe Biden. So overall, I think, and it is something I've been discussing in my election predictions, Donald Trump has an inherent advantage in that Joe Biden is very unpopular for many reasons. The economy, many people, disagree with him with his response to the wars in Israel and Ukraine. You have a lot of disagreement now because of this. And overall, I think that is something that's going to stick long term. Now, you see, as far as I think the immediate effects, how much does it, change the needle in each of the individual states? We will not know individually for each state until we have new polling. And I think by the end of next week, we should definitely have those polls in so we can see the different data that comes in of what was the impact, the before and after of the polls based on these new verdicts. But what we do have some polling that showed how voters, before it was declared that Donald Trump was guilty, how they would act. In this Axios report, they broke it down. And basically, you found that 27% of voters made them less likely to vote for Trump, 26% more likely, and 39% would not make a difference. Now, one of the big things that I think is important to look at these polls, and you might be seeing these polls out there, I think it's very important to note that with these percentages of people that would vote for Trump, wouldn't vote for Trump, it is likely that a lot of these people are not really in the middle, right? You're looking at voters in general. Thus, if you have a Democrat who was not going to vote for Donald Trump regardless, then this conviction would, quote unquote, make it less likely for them to vote for Trump. Then, that doesn't really shift anything in the election. They're already they're already not voting for Trump. Now, the biggest group that this is going to have to, have an impact on the election is how much does the conviction shift Trump's support amongst three key groups: younger voters, Hispanic voters, and Black voters. I think that's ultimately, when we get the polling back, that's going to be the kind of deciding factor as to how Donald Trump performs in the polls and how Donald Trump really stands in the presidential election. You see, one of the biggest things that I think we need to realize is that Donald Trump's building coalition, and if you looked at the national polls, Donald Trump is ahead by 2 points nationally, which is pretty impressive considering at this same time in 2020, I think he was probably behind if you were to compare it, day to day. We're currently end of May, so we're around here, May 31st. Biden was +6, right? So we're talking here about an 8-point difference nationally. It comes from somewhere, and the answer is that comes from the Hispanic vote, it comes from the Black vote, and the younger vote, where Donald Trump is doing better than he did back in 2020. With this case, thus, then you're going to see, if the conviction affects these voters more, math starts getting complicated for Trump. Now, I think that Donald Trump should sleep with, a big sense of relief in his head, in the sense that you have $34 million now, like this, like really quickly from grassroots movements. And that shows that there is excitement behind your campaign. You could get a lot of money, funded to your campaign via super PACs, via, a bunch of different ways, but it being directly from voters, I think, matters a lot more, because people are moving their money, in support of a candidate. And I think in this case, Donald Trump is, in an excitement wise, his base is just way more excited. Look, turnout really matters when it comes to, presidential elections. If a base does not turn out to vote for you, you're going to lose the election. You can in part argue that's what happened to Hillary Clinton. Many Democrats were really excited, beyond excited, to go vote for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. And that cost her some states. And I think very similarly, in 2020, I think, depending on how you view the election, I think that one of the reasons why Donald Trump loses, beyond COVID, is failing to call for, early voting and all those different things that impacted their turnout. And it did in the same way in 2022. In Arizona, for example, the Democrats did not really call for voters to go to early voting and those type of votes. And what ended up happening? They ended up falling short. So, turnout really matters. And your turnout, really, the first people you need to turn out is your base. And look, Donald Trump is stronger today because his base is even more riled up for him. Now, yeah, definitely when it comes to the polls, we're going to have to see and we're going to have to wait. But, I think initial signs are showing that, this, although, you might have thought, hey, he's a convicted felon now, that might have been worse for Trump. I think it's actually made it a lot better for him. And I really want to know what you think down in the comments. What do you think about this case? What do you think about Donald Trump's, stance right now in the presidential election? Do you think the case will somehow improve his positioning when it comes to the presidential election against Joe Biden? Or do you think it's going to damage? I want to hear what you think down in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a huge thumbs up. Remember to like, subscribe, and to turn on the notification bell to be up to date with our latest content. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.